The NSA doesn't have enough parking spaces, and it is a national emergency. Why, do you ask? Do we have a 38-page report on the NSA's parking efficiency thing? Because they're bad at it. It's almost like there is a contest between the three-letter government agencies to see who can waste the most money. Now, why do we care about a parking structure or a parking situation as much as we do? Well, quite honestly, we don't. It literally is almost funny how much money people can waste when no oversight is permitted. Our story starts here. The NSA. Do they have enough parking? Do they need more parking? The report opens with this: for decades, agency employees have expressed concerns about the shortage of parking at the NSA Washington building. Of the 633 NSA letters dating back all the way to 1954, 366 mention parking. Ladies and gentlemen, that is over half. This is a problem the American people need to solve. So how do we go about doing it? Well, in several ways. The NSA building is going to get that parking lot. Except for they won't, because this is a government entity doing government things, and it's all going to crumble into a steaming pile of poo, if you'll excuse my language and metaphor. There were several different attempts to ease the parking situation at the NSA building, none of which worked, but they did succeed at wasting an exorbitant amount of money. First of which, the turnstiles. The NSA parking lot is separated by a 300-foot fence from the building. I know, crazy. The Inspector General was told that the fence, and I'm quoting here, forced employees to enter/exit through designated turnstiles and created potentially unsafe pedestrian routes. Oh my goodness. How will we ever overcome the 300-foot walk that people have to do through turnstiles? Remember, they have turnstiles. Well, of course, the solution is to build more turnstiles. In 2015, 3 additional turnstiles were installed in the 300-foot fence line. The 3 turnstiles in the fence cost $1.5 million. But it gets worse. It gets worse. The Installation and Logistics Department initiated a new project to, I am not kidding here, remove the 300-foot fence. So just to recap, there's a big old fence between the parking and the office building. People didn't want to walk around the fence, they got turnstiles, because apparently the turnstiles that existed were a safety hazard. The month before the last turnstile was finished, they decided to remove the fence. After the turnstile debacle that cost US taxpayers $1.5 million, we have the Key 2 Park system. Now, you've all seen these. We've been to malls and airports, and you have the here's how many parking spaces are left, and you have a number, and you decide, oh, I can park here, and then you go park there. Well, that was supposed to be installed in order to ease the concerns of parking at the NSA campus. The problem was, and I hate to sound like a redundantator, I don't know if that's a word, the system that the government installed didn't work.
Yes, that's awesome!
The Key 2 Park system was not installed with a sensor in every space, as done in airport parking systems, for instance, but instead used a system of copper wire inductive loops sensors only at the entrances and exits of these certain lots. So they installed a parking counter without any counters. Sick. There was water in the base, they were causing electrical shortages, but then this happened. The building that housed the communications equipment was struck by lightning twice. Ultimately, the system that was designed to tell people how many spaces there were to park just didn't work, so they scrapped the whole thing. Well, Joe Bob, how much did that cost? Oh, don't worry, it only cost US taxpayers $1.5 million US American dollars. So at this point, we have 2 systems of improving the much-needed parking situation at the NSA headquarters, and both of them didn't work. But here is the big gazumba that is, I think gazumba is word for maybe we shouldn't use that. Here is the big beluga whale. I don't know if beluga's any better. Maybe you should just throw gazumbas in there because it's funny, and then have this dialogue of whether or not we should use the word gazumbas.
Okay.
Here is the big finisher. When you want to have more parking, what do you build? Do you build turnstiles? Do you build a parking meter? Does that help the parking situation? One would think, and I'm just spitballing here, that if you wanted more parking, you would build more parking. In order to build a modular parking structure, which makes sense, the NSA allocated $3 million to do just that. Here's the problem. Like we've mentioned over and over again, it's the government doing something, and usually when the government does something, it's bad. This particular project is the worst. Now, I'll skip all of the floofy this and that and back and forth between the contractor, but know this. The person awarding the contract was encouraged by the government to support small business development. Now, I'm all for that. I am all for supporting small businesses, especially with big government projects. I'm not a big fan of the government having a small few select contractors that they always go to, and then those contractors end up becoming monopolies and they jack up the prices. So I'm all about supporting small businesses. But if you're going to award a contract to a small business, you should probably make sure that that small business can do the job that you're awarding the contract for. So this parking structure was supposed to have 250 new parking spaces. Turns out it only had 87, but if that was the biggest problem, we would be in luck. Well, I'm burying the lead, that's not the biggest problem. The biggest problem was it didn't work. The parking structure itself didn't meet the structural guidelines, and overall, the contractor that was awarded the bid to build the parking structure did a bad enough job that a lot of people, many different agencies brought in to review the work of this contractor, said this is not safe. When you work for the government and the government awards you a contract to do a thing, whether or not you do that thing is not whether or not you get paid. The agency, the NSA, paid the construction service contractor in full in September 2019, even though the contractor could not demonstrate it had met all of the United Facilities criteria. According to the people that were overseeing this at the NSA, they still paid them because it would have cost more in legal fees to withhold the payment than just pay them the $3 million that they were owed. The construction company built such a terrible parking structure that it was deemed unsafe. Rather than just being able to use those 87 parking lots, they tore the whole thing down. $3.5 million later into this failed parking structure debacle, we are no closer to solving the NSA workers' parking concerns. $6.6 million gone. And how much did it help? Zero. None. If, hypothetically, if I took $5 million of taxpayer money, went out to a field, dug a big hole, and burned it, we would have saved money. I understand that this is probably pretty dry, but I'm hoping when you hear stuff like this, I would hope wholeheartedly that it would lead you in a direction to say, yeah, maybe they should do less things. People at the NSA, I sympathize with you, mostly because I don't want you to tap my phones, but not having enough parking spaces sucks. And so does the government.